Welcome to Crossover Commander, where we show you how to cross over your favorite pop culture characters through the blind eternities so they can command your deck with style. If you really enjoy what you see here today and would like to see this channel grow, check us out on TikTok and Patreon. The links will be in the description section down below. It looks like this portal is stabilizing, so let's get on with this show. Sing once again with me our strange duet. My power over you grows stronger yet, and though you turn from me to glance behind, the Phantom of the Opera is there. Inside this week's deck tech. So a little peek inside of the mind of the Crossover Commander for y'all. I've dealt with really bad insomnia for a long time, and back when this movie came out, it played on repeat in my DVD player for days because it helped me sleep. So the relationship between the Phantom and Christine is one of seduction and redemption. One of dark and one of light. One of in the shadows and one on the stage. And in Magic, there is no better pair to represent these two. So with that, I'd like to present to you the Phantom and Christine as our commanders for this week. Krav the Unredeemed plays the part of the Phantom. He partners with Regna the Redeemer, and you can pay a black and sacrifice X creatures. Target player draws X cards and gains X life, and put X +1/+1 counters on Krav the Unredeemed. And then Regna the Redeemer plays the part of Christine. She partners with Krav the Unredeemed, has flying, and at the beginning of each end step, if your team gained life this turn, create 2 1/1 white warrior creature tokens. So the power level in Rule 0 for this deck, the Phantom is ruthless in his aria and can lock out the game by turn 6 if optimally provisioned, and can end the show regularly by turn 12. So the Phantom's strategy is to bide his time until his music of the night comes to a full crescendo. And the way to claim victory with this deck is to play the long game, for the Phantom's aria of attrition shall bend in our favor, as the Angel of Music and the Demon of Song harmonize together. This is the perfect time to remind you that this is a crossover-themed build. With that being said, crucial cards for the theme will be added regardless of price. Cards that are not essential to fit the theme will be made as budget-friendly as possible. The Phantom first begins with the Overture. Westvale Abbey, Reliquary Tower, Cabal Stronghold, and Thespian Stage, followed by a Command Tower, Shine Shadow Snarl, Shattered Sanctum, 11 Plains, and 18 Swamps. Then we had the beat of Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Orzhov Signet, Thought Vessel, and Orzhov Cluestone. As the Phantom's beat compounds in its ferocity, a chorus begins, sung by Soul Warden for 1 white. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Soul's Attendant for 1 white. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. And then Blood Artist for 1 and a black. Whenever Blood Artist or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Cruel Celebrant for 1 white and 1 black. Whenever Cruel Celebrant or another creature or planeswalker you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And then Imposing Sovereign for 1 and a white. Creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Suture Priest for 1 and a white. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain a life. And whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you may have that player lose a life. And then Ayara, First of Lochthwain. Whenever Ayara, First of Lochthwain, or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, and that's for 3 black mana. And you can also sacrifice another black creature to draw a card. Then Indulging Patrician for 1, a white and a black, has flying and lifelink, and at the beginning of the end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, each opponent loses 3 life. And then Linden the Steadfast Queen for 3 white has Vigilance, and whenever a white creature you control attacks, you may gain 1 life. And then Nadir's Nightblade for 2 and a black. Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Then the Seller of Songbirds comes for 2 and a white. When Seller of Songbirds enters the battlefield, put a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying onto the battlefield. And then Welcoming Vampire for 2 and a white has flying, and whenever 1 or more other creatures with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. And then Veto Thorn of the Duskrose for 2 and a black has whenever you gain a life, target opponent loses that much life. And for 3 and 2 black, creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. And then Cliffhaven Vampire for 2, a white and a black has flying, and whenever you gain a life, each opponent loses 1 life. And then Falconwrath Noble for 3 and a black has flying, and whenever Falconwrath Noble or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain a life. And then the Harbinger of Night for 2 and 2 black says during your upkeep, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature. And then Thorn of the Black Rose for 3 and a black has Death Touch, and when Thorn of the Black Rose enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And then Agent of Masks for 3, a white and a black has at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain life equal to the life lost this way. And then Tavosh Gloom Summoner for 4 and a black has lifelink, and at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, you may pay X life, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. If you do, create an XX black demon creature token with flying. Then the Knights of the Black Rose for 3, a white and a black. When Knights of the Black Rose enter the battlefield, you become the monarch. Whenever an opponent becomes the monarch, if you were the monarch as the turn began, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Then we have Vona, Butcher of Magon, for 3, a white and a black, has Vigilance and lifelink, and you can tap it, pay 7 life, and destroy target non-land permanent. Activate this ability only during your turn. And then Banshee of the Dread Choir for 3 and 2 black has Myriad, to where whenever it attacks, it creates copies of itself to attack each opponent. And whenever Banshee of the Dread Choir deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card. And then Witch of the Moors has Death Touch for 3 and 2 black, and at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, each opponent sacrifices a creature, and you return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And then Midnight Banshee for 3 and 3 black has Wither, meaning it deals damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters. And at the beginning of your upkeep, put a -1/-1 counter on all non-black creatures. And then Celestial Force for 5 and 3 white says at the beginning of your upkeep, or at the beginning of each upkeep, you gain 3 life. As the chorus has been filled, we can get to the true music of the night. We start with Midnight Charm. For 1 black, it says choose 1. Midnight Charm deals 1 damage to target creature, and you gain 1 life, or target creature gains first strike until end of turn, or tap target creature. Then we have Vanishing Verse. For 1 white and 1 black, it says exile target monocolored permanent. And then we have Victim of Night. For 2 black, it says destroy target non-vampire, non-werewolf, non-zombie creature. Then we have Angel Song. For 1 and a white, it says prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn, and it has cycling. And with a Curtain of Light for 1 and 1 white, target attacking unblocked creature becomes blocked and you draw a card. And then a Johnny's Mantra for 1 and a white has at the beginning of your upkeep, you may gain 1 life. And then Foul Play for 1 and a black, destroy target creature with power 2 or less and investigate. And then Survive the Night has 2 and a white. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible until end of turn, and you investigate. And then we have the Crescendo of War for 3 and a white. It says at the beginning of each upkeep, put a strife counter on Crescendo of War. Attacking creatures get +1/+0 for each strife counter on Crescendo of War, and blocking creatures get +1/+0 for each strife counter on Crescendo of War. And then we have Knight of Souls Betrayal for 2 and 2 black. All creatures get -1/-1. Then we have Vile Requiem for 2 and 2 black. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a verse counter on Vile Requiem. And then for 1 and a black, sacrifice Vile Requiem, destroy up to X target non-black creatures, where X is the number of verse counters on Vile Requiem. They can't be regenerated. And then Angelic Accord for 3 and a white. At the beginning of your each end step, if you gain 4 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. Then we have Divine Visitation for 3 and 2 white. If 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. Then we have Thrilling Encore for 4 and a black. Put onto the battlefield under your control all creature cards and all graveyards that were put there from the battlefield this turn. And then we have Clear the Stage for 4 and a black. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you may return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And then Curtain's Call for 5 and a black has Undaunted. This spell costs 1 less for each opponent that you have, and destroy 2 target creatures. Now that the music has hit the point of no return, we can look at our tutors. We have Night Dealings for 2 and 2 black. Whenever a source you control deals damage to another player, put that many theft counters on Night Dealings. And then for 2 and 2 black, remove X theft counters from Night Dealings. Search your library for a non-land card with converted mana cost X. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Then we have Increasing Ambition for 4 and a black. It says search your library for a card and put that card into your hand. If Increasing Ambition was cast from a graveyard, instead search your library for 2 cards and put those cards into your hand, then shuffle your library. And that has a flashback of 7 in the black. Then we have Dark Petition for 3 and 2 black. It says search your library for a card and put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. And if you have Spell Mastery, meaning that there's 2 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard, you add 3 black mana to your mana pool. And then we have Beseech the Queen for either 3 black or 2 generic in any combination equaling up to 6. Then that says search your library for a card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. We use those to find specific cards like Austere Command for 4 and 2 white. It says choose 2, destroy all artifacts, destroy all enchantments, destroy all creatures with a converted mana cost 3 or less, or destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 4 or greater. Then we have Generous Gift for 2 and a white. It says destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature token. And then Mutilate for 2 and 2 black says all creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn for each swamp you control. And then Bastion of Remembrance for 2 and a black says whenever Bastion of Remembrance enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token, and whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life. With the combination of these cards, we can churn through our deck at the Phantom's whim. We have Greed for 2 and 2 black. It says pay a black mana, pay 2 life, and draw a card. And then Bolus's Citadel for 3 and 3 black. It says you may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play that the top card of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its converted mana cost, rather than pay its mana cost. And then you can tap it and sacrifice 10 non-land permanents. Each opponent loses 10 life. Then Tablet of the Guilds for 2 generic mana. As Tablet of the Guilds enters the battlefield, choose 2 colors. Whenever you cast a spell, if it's at least one of the chosen colors, you gain 1 life for each of the chosen colors it is. And then Dawn of Hope for 1 and a white says whenever you gain a life, you pay 2 and you can draw a card. And then you can pay 3 and a white to create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. And to end this audio, along with the game, we have Gift of Doom for 4 and a black. Enchanted creature has Death Touch and Indestructible. And Whisper Silk Cloak for 3 generic mana with an equip cost of 2. It says equipped creature can't be blocked and has Shroud. And then Marilyn of the Morn Song for 1 and 2 black says players can't draw cards, and at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player loses 3 life. Search his or her library for a card, put it into his or her hand, then shuffle his or her library. An Opposition Agent for 2 and a black says, Flash, you control your opponents while they're searching their libraries. While an opponent is searching their library, they exile each card they find. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast them. These cards will ensure the protection of our commanders, as well as completely lock out the game. Now that the Phantom's music has graced my channel, we can look at the average price of the deck. At time of release, it's between $176 and $235, depending on where you purchase from. As always, it can be cheaper if you're willing to play with damaged or heavily played cards. And then the stats for this deck, we have 5 ramp cards, 5 tutors, 8 card draw spells, 11 interactions between getting rid of our opponent's things, that type of stuff. Then we have 4 board wipes and 36 lands. This deck works out pretty well. The Phantom's ability to draw cards really keeps the deck pretty consistent. And then the constant bodies given to us by Christine help us solidify our board. This deck was a really cool build, and I hope you guys check it out and build it for yourself. Remember, this is a crossover themed build. With that being said, crucial cards for the theme were added regardless of price. Cards that were not essential to fit the theme were made as budget-friendly as possible. If you want to optimize this list, feel free to leave your upgrades in the comments section below. Most importantly, this deck is meant to be a new and engaging way to spice up your Commander games, so fun is the top priority. Thank you for watching this crossover deck tech. If you liked this video, check out our other content on YouTube or TikTok. Your viewership means the multiverse to the crossover commander, and if you would like to become a part of this growing Terran reality, you can like, share, and subscribe. If you would like to vote on the next pop culture character to crossover, check out our Patreon where we have some awesome perks. If you have any ideas or complaints, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. Now that this portal's closing, see you next time.